the decision that BetVictor will not be sponsoring the ISTHMIAN Northern Premier or Southern Football League next season.
And it rolls on absolutely fantastically. Would you like me to tell you why?
Well, yeah, go on. I'd like to hear the reasons behind it, because all I read was people's reaction to the news, which has been quite amusing. Sitting scrolling through that, it filled a half an hour void quite nicely. But go on.
So that decision has been made. However, they found out that BetVictor were withdrawing before the coronavirus pandemic affected football. However, the league have stated that their decision to call for an early end to the season, an immediate termination to the season, was affected by their decision to pull out.
Right.
So they did have a big say in when it all came to an end. If you remember, the vote sort of went through steps 5 to 7, and then was step 3 and 4 sort of followed shortly afterwards.
So, sorry, you're talking about BetVictor, right?
Yeah. So the BetVictor leagues in step 3 and 4 that they finished slightly afterwards, but they've actually now come out and actually made a statement saying that they decided to end their league season because of BetVictor pulling out. That was a large part of the decision.
Really?
And now there's a big thing sort of starting to erupt where steps 5 to 7 are now have been affected by the way their season has ended, because they've been categorized within the same steps as them, and it's all to do with their sponsor, which has got no financial gain, benefit, or influence over them whatsoever.
My mind is just completely blown by that.
Yeah. So steps 5 to 7 could be second-hand influenced as such by the fact that their sponsor pulled out, in terms of why they were ended.
Wow. Okay, that's interesting. That's really interesting, actually. Because again, all I read was the comments of it's great news for the game. Gambling, addictions, etc., is a massive problem for some. These are some of the comments that people are saying. It's good that they've gone. Never should have been done in the first place. Why did the leagues decide to do this?
I mean, there was uproar when they actually won the contract.
Yeah, there was.
There's Bostic that lost it last, wasn't it?
I believe so. Yeah.
Gone from adhesives to betting.
What did BetVictor expect? Most clubs are against betting companies sponsoring, let alone promoting betting itself.
And that's where it got really funny, because one of the reasons why BetVictor stated that they had to step away from it is because too many players and clubs were flouting the betting rules.
Really?
Yeah, and it wasn't feasible to continue.
Okay. Where do you sit, Paul, on this particular topic, especially with the fact that obviously a lot of people were against it in the first place, but more kind of around what Adam was talking about as well. Where do you sit on it all?
I think personally, I just don't like betting companies sponsoring football teams, period. I don't like the fact that, if you support a club and the kids want a replica shirt, they can't have one that looks like the players have got because they can't have the betting company on it.
Yeah.
Which I know is the case with Aston Villa and with Newcastle and quite a few others.
Yeah, Norwich.
Kids want the shirt kids want the shirt the players have got, and they can't have it because it's a betting company. Well, if footballers are not allowed to bet because it's considered that much of a bad thing by the FA, then clubs shouldn't be able to take the money, as far as I'm concerned. And I like a bet, same as the next man does. I'm not saying that, but I just don't think they should be allowed to sponsor football clubs or football leagues. Cigarette companies aren't. Just get them away from it, as far as I'm concerned.
Is alcohol banned as well?
No.
I didn't think they were, but I know they were like massive when they 90s, early 2000s. There was a lot of.
It's reduced, and I believe the size of hoardings around the pitch for some things have to be of a smaller size.
Right.
I think there are some rules within it. But I think betting is going to be like what cigarette companies were to Formula One in football over time.
Yeah, I think the only ones that are banned are actually cigarettes and contraceptive companies. Actually,
Right.
Believe it or not, I don't think you could. You're not allowed to have a shirt sponsorship from Durex or whatever. I have no idea why that would be, but
That's mad.
that was what I was originally told when I inquired about shirt sponsorships many moons ago. That they said, yeah, you can't have anything to do with contraception, and you can't have anything to do with certain sort of subjects like cigarettes and stuff like that. But you could at the time, and I think you still can have alcohol.
Well, I'm going to play devil's advocate, and to a certain extent, I do agree with what I'm just about to say. But with the finances in football, especially at non-league level, being such a massive topic that's going to need to be discussed over the next however many months, maybe year, betting is a massive, and I mean a massive industry that is probably still going to be running and surviving once all of this is said and done. The money that they could put into football to help, surely there's a counter argument to say, well, football has kind of dug itself into a position now where it does, rely on the betting companies to provide a large source of income from it.
It's dirty money, though, isn't it, James? It feeds addiction and it feeds bad culture.
Would you rather have your club, or would you rather have your integrity and say, well, yeah, we're not involved in betting companies?
Yeah, but they're only giving money to the big clubs anyway. They're not sponsoring the Westerfields or the Stowmarkets. They're sponsoring the Newcastles and the Aston Villas and the Tottenham Hotspurs of the world. Or leagues. There's no money going into grassroots football from these betting companies whatsoever.
BetVictor wouldn't go down as low as step 5 because you can't actually gamble on that level of football anyway, unless it's a nationalised competition.
Like they're putting money into the league, though, aren't they?
They're only at step 3 and 4 because you can bet at that level.
Yeah, and then it's only going to the league. It's not going to the clubs. I mean, that money doesn't get bunged down in any quantity to the clubs, does it?
Yeah, you won't get them betting companies sticking their name on a shirt because it's not big enough. There's not enough of a thing like that. They have pulled out of that because there must be a reputational risk. Because I can tell you now, the amount of money that BetVictor earn, whatever they're paying for that sponsorship would be pittance.
Yeah,
like that sponsorship will be worth some money, but not megabucks.
An hour's takings probably.
Yeah, this is it. So they've pulled out of it because they can see more reputational harm than good.
Yeah,
and I think again in their statement they stated how having betting within a footballing world is becoming more and more of a taboo thing to do, and I don't think you can sort of sit there on one side of the fence and say, people's mental health is being harmed by gambling, it's affecting their homes, and only bet while it's fun or whatever that motto is. When the fun stops, stop.
Yes. Yeah.
You can't sort of put that in one hand when every single week I walk around a football pitch and people are just staring at their phones, waiting for 50, 60 quid's worth of bets to come in. Like,
it's a good
spot on.
You can't. That isn't a healthy environment. It's toxic. And you've got to push that out of the game. You can't keep putting that in front of people. I at work even I don't bet anymore, but I didn't start betting until I was sort of into my 20s. But we have young lads that are come in, they're 18 years old, and they're absolutely caning money. Like customers that come in, they would freely spend a lot of money.
Yeah, I have to admit, I used to work with someone, and I'm not going to name him, but I used to work with someone who would work out what his disposable income was going to be, and the first day that he got paid, he would bet all of his disposable income on the weekend's games to try and get some more money for him to be able to spend during the month. And if he lost it all, he just didn't do anything for a month. He would have enough to pay his bills and that, but then he just would not do anything else. And I just that's insane. That's
he's now got 27 children.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's where you're seeing how it affects lives, though, when people become that dependent on it.
Yeah. But going back to your point on what impact this has on the league, then just go through that part again, because I just want to get my head around how it's going to be affecting the levels of football that we're talking about.
Well, so what they're saying is that by the sponsor pulling out, it it helped make their mind up that they needed to end and terminate the season.
Right.
But the other leagues were led by their decision, is what they're saying. So steps 3 and 4 have directly influenced what's ended up happening to 5, 6, and 7, despite 5, 6, and 7 having no involvement with betting companies and BETVICTOR in particular at all. So that's sort of the core of it. The issue that they now find themselves with is that they're stating that they've got they've got a business that's been, running for that league for over 60 years, about 65 years, I think it is. Never sort of not had a sponsor or whatever, but they believe now that they are truly facing a time where they won't have a sponsor, a main source of income for the league. So next year's trophies, well, whenever it is, probably won't be gold standard.
That is mental that a betting company can have that much of an impact. Again, I suppose it comes down to what you two are saying. That is where you sort of, I suppose, you play. You did make a deal with the devil. So
but it's a sort of perfect storm of events, because they operated a break clause, which was in their contract, meaning they could terminate a couple of weeks before the whole coronavirus thing kicked off. Then that kicks off, and then all of a sudden they're in a situation where you can't find anyone new.
Yeah. Insane, really. Absolutely insane. Well, not really sure where to go with that. That's absolutely mental. So, effectively, BETVICTOR are to blame for the whole thing.
And steps 3 and 4 financially could be a little bit screwed. But I don't know what the sponsor money pays for in the actual leagues. Like, I genuinely don't know.
Yeah.
But
well, the fact that in part of their statement they've said the bad news continues.
Yeah.
Before they talk about BETVICTOR, I want to know what the other bad news was in that letter. That's that would be interesting to read. But
I think it probably just relates to the season being terminated.
Yeah, could well be.
Because that's all been bundled together because they couldn't actually release that information until now. Because you would have thought they would have. It's a bit sneaky that they've only just let out the fact that the league sponsors have pulled out when they knew beforehand, but apparently it was embargoed.
Yeah, mental, absolutely mental. What do you make of it, guys? What do you think in terms of betting in football? What's your stance? Do you agree with the guys in terms of it should be, scrapped altogether? What do you make of it? Let us know down in the comment section.